Present.
Trustee Rodriguez,
Present.
Trustee Smith, and Secretary Gibson King.
Yes, present.
Jesse Gomez, present. I'll be chairing the meeting today. Also present is Leila Simmons and, excuse me, Superintendent Bornay. I'll turn over the meeting to Superintendent Bornay, and we'll proceed from there as you go through the agenda.
Good evening, trustees.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, trustees.
Good evening.
As part of this work session tonight, we would like to do two things. The first is to hear a presentation from Jim Dermody, who represents Neola, to offer some information regarding our policy platform, which we use to review our school board policies as well as update them. And then immediately after that presentation and questions, we will turn it over to our Chief Financial Officer, Ms. Simmons, who will take us through the budget book to prepare us for our public hearing next week.
Dr. Dermody, if you're going to start, would you mind, you can go to the podium there and speak at that point, and just give us a quick background on yourself?
Didn't quite cut them off.
Okay.
Over here?
Yeah.
Great.
Can you spell your name when you get up there?
DER, and I'm gonna give you a card before you
Okay,
don't be
great.
stuck with all that.
That'll be good.
I kinda like, you're my favorite member right now, because both of you are left-handers, so
That's right.
I'm partial left-handers.
Right there.
Right here?
That's good there.
Great. I am Jim Dermody from Neola Incorporated. We're a policy, we've been your policy provider in the past.
I know.
And so I met with Dr. Bornay a week or so ago, and I know Vice President, right, Gomez?
Yes.
Vice President Gomez and I had been in Joel, I remember meeting you at Indianapolis meetings, ISBA. So I represent Neola, and School City had requested maybe another meeting, possible startup, and certainly we'd be very proud to partner again with School City East Chicago. So some of you might have already been in when we were previously working with you. I was not the associate at that time. So we're a 6-state service that provides policy support for our clients. I think it's safe to say that we probably are at least over 80% of the school corporations in Indiana use our service. Really what we're designed for is to provide our clients with the latest and most current updates in terms of policy based on statutory changes by either the federal government or the state government, and to keep you out of legal trouble, give you guardrails for your decision making. And at any time, if you have a question, please feel free to ask me, okay? I'm a very formal person. No, I'm not. So if you have a question, that's fine with me at any time. But what we do is we are a comprehensive policy provider. We really don't do anything else. We provide anything and all policy issues and questions. My own background, so you know, I'm a proud 42, I know I look young, but I'm retired, 42-year public educator. I taught and coached for 22 years. Moved into administration. Been at Lowell, Warsaw, New Prairie, and LaPorte, and was superintendent at New Prairie, interim superintendent at Knox, Oregon Davis, So I've got 6.5 years of superintendent experience along with a number of years as assistant superintendent. That's kind of my background, but in terms of Neola, I was a Neola client for 10 years. In fact, I did most of the processing and work along with my administrative assistant. And then finishing my 8th year. I'm in my 8th year, so 18 years of experience with Neola. And I wouldn't be working for a company if I didn't think they've been solid and provide good services for our clients. How this all works, and I think, Joel, I think you were around when Neola was your provider previously, possibly? I don't know if any of the others were, not to be redundant, but after my dynamic presentation tonight, of course, I hope, we obviously hope and we'd be proud if we could partner again. The board would have to approve an agreement, which I think you probably have copies of, or will have those. And one is kind of a rejoin agreement. Again, I was not so I really don't know any history. I really don't care about, what's what then is, but we're worried about now. So one would be a rejoin agreement, coming back into, excuse me, I have to get my notes. Was shaking a little bit when all the toll road construction I would get here on time. I live in LaPorte. And it was just after a couple weeks from now, of course, they closed it all down in those 2 weeks, so didn't make it. One would be a rejoin and one would be a comprehensive do-over, where you start from scratch. That's going to be really at the prerogative of the board. Right now, there's been no interaction between Neola and School City since approximately October of '22, which would be on, if you have a catch-up agreement, and Dr. Bornay, I don't know which ones they may have, but that would be the first one that you received earlier in the summer, and Jesse, I think that was the one that you received too. So there'd be a catch-up agreement there, and the other is from scratch. And the cost of doing this and is all through there. If it's the catch-up agreements on page 9 through 10 through 11. And if we'd be restarting,
Jim,
yes,
have the from scratch agreement.
like starting over?
Yeah, they have the most recent one, which is from scratch. They don't have the July one.
Okay, but if you did provide them with that, I'm sorry.
Right.
But if this is for full service, right, you might, that's the one, the most recent one. That would be your costs, which when I finish, I'll show to you, because of course, like any old teacher, I'm kind of keeping you focused on where we're going there. I'll get to the costs in a few minutes, but this is the agreement you would sign. If you chose to do that, we would start over, and then you would receive 24, if Dr. Bornay or whoever he would put in charge, whoever he's mad at, because it is kind of a tedious process. So a lot of people say, I say, what did you do wrong that you got stuck doing this? They'd have 24 free hours of my guidance and assistance, et cetera. We'd have to condense into a number of meetings, but that's all earmarked in the agreement. And then when we come out on the other side, you're tight, you're right, you're ready to go. And I will tell you this, from being an associate and from being a client, the key thing is that the upkeep. Because what you would receive are 2 updates a year, a fall edition and a spring edition. And those are based on statutory changes that either the feds throw out or the state changes, right? And that's part of the service, along with 2 hours for each update. So again, you'd get a spring update, for example, or let's say fall, since we're heading towards the fall. And then I'm in the process right now. I have 28 clients, school corporations I work with. I go all the way to the Ohio line, and I've got some right in your neighborhood that I work with as well. And I'm in the process of beginning to meet with them, although I won't be around for the next few weeks. I'm going on, my wife and I are going on a personal sojourn. How's that? That's where we're going. So I would love to meet, but we can take that picture. That would be great to make sure they said I did come and all that. And that's kind of how it works. You will have a choice of policy only and policy and administrative guidelines. And I always advise my clients, if financially feasible, the administrative guidelines are important, because the two magic words, and I'm sure your counsel will tell you, are arbitrary and capricious. And over my 8 years in here, doing this job, I've seen a number of times where that's where the decision, if it does go to court, will come down to. Did you have guidelines that allowed you to do what you did, or did you make this decision based on a personal issue of some type? I think one of the beauties of our service is that if School City takes our policies verbatim as they are, because we just got done, I hate to use it, but I'll probably say it, we have these cuss and discuss meetings. We have all our associates, there's 7 associates in Indiana, we're all retired superintendents. And in our legal counsel, we will meet and we work all this out and massage it. And we feel very confident when we come out of that, that it's going to pass muster. So if School City took 36-2 is what I'm working at now, and if you decided to come back, that's included in your agreement right now. And somebody would receive a legal challenge, we won't be your primary, but our attorneys will assist your attorneys in your defense. And I always felt that was pretty important, that the company felt this is so strong, we're going to stand with you as our client. So they are warranted policies. And all this is in the agreement. But so I hope I'm not being redundant, am I? I'm not. I don't know if this is the kind of information you want or not. And so at that point, if you chose the administrative guidelines, you also get a full body of forms that we've just updated to match statute. And so anybody who's in education has to make forms up, Ms. Simmons or Dr. Bornay, and if to have free forms, I always thought that's pretty nice that I have the form and it's linked right to the policy that you might be adopting or putting into use. So far, so good. Am I answering questions that you might? Do you have any right now?
I do.
And I'm sorry, your name?
I'm Diane Smith.
Hi, Diane. Yes.
With Neola, and when you mention the 2 updates,
Yes.
I know that the feds and the states, I know that you're pretty decent with the federal guidelines. State-wise, do you have any lobbyists that sit in committees when the IC codes are discussed?
We would have observers. We don't take a side.
No, I'm not saying take a side. I'm
No, but
saying
we have observers at the legislature, yes, who feed us.
a lobbyist.
Well,
More or less.
when I think of a lobbyist, I'm thinking of someone who's trying to persuade you to vote.
I know that part. I'm just saying, do you have someone that participates in the committee meetings when they're talking about education, when they're discussing the IC codes and the different things, the different policies that need to be changed in legislation?
I would say that we have informal contacts. I would have people who would contact me, and I simply say, this is what they're doing, this is how I interpret what they're doing, but I would not lobby or try to influence. Our service doesn't do that. Well,
Just asking.
does that answer your question?
Yes, it did. Thank you.
Sure. And because remember, what we want to do, hopefully what I was trying to do, the great things for kids, getting away from the microphone, I'm kind of a wandering person, sorry. The great things you want to do for kids, you don't want to be tied up in legal difficulties. And so we give you the policies, we give you the guardrails and say, we're going to stand right by you if you follow these, because that's how confident we are between our associates and our law team. And that's what we try to do. And then so you don't have to be involved in issues that just take up a lot of time, take up a lot of money, and stop sometimes the teachers and the principals from being able to provide those great services you want for your kids.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman? Trustee Rodriguez.
I know back when we were using Neola, you would give us sort of a template.
Yes,
Items in red, where there was an option that we would have to take, A or B.
correct.
Now, is that still the
So
case?
that's how it works.
Okay.
So you as board members do not have to, call all this stuff out because it's highlighted in green, we're recommending you take it. It's highlighted, we strike it out in red if you don't. And again, we will do anything anything that our clients want. However, if you would change something that we feel you shouldn't be doing that, and you get a legal challenge, then we wouldn't stand with you. That's just kind of how it is. I would say it's rare that I do have a client that does that, and occasionally if they do, I say, that's fine. We will put in whatever you want put in based on that. So yes, that's the same format. So Dr. Bornay and I were speaking, whether he decides to do it, whether he designates someone else to do it, then I would set up 2-hour meeting for the drafting, whichever extent you want to go. I would set up 3-hour meetings, and I would come over, and if it extends past the meeting, we do it digitally, and we just work through it. I've done this a number of times. I finished one about 7 months ago with a client. We just, dun, 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 we did it.
Just another example. Say if you give us the template, we do have a policy committee that reviews all our policies.
Sure.
And if there's any changes locally, say if they want to add something or change something, would you then again review those changes to make sure that it best interests the school city before you give us a second template, or how does that work?
That would work. I would refer you back to your own counsel and say that Neola you want to add something. I don't want to be in a position, I'm not an attorney, and our attorneys work for other, not policy services, but obviously they're busy with clients. And so we would say, I don't know who your counsel is, but you have counsel, I'm sure. You would take that to your counsel, and if you come back to us and say, our counsel said, yes, we want to do it, we'll put it in. With the understanding, if there is a challenge, you're kind of on your own on that particular, if that particular change you make comes up. But everything else, we still stay with you. So does that answer your question, Joel?
Yes.
Are there any other questions? Mr. Dermody, I do have one. Maybe it's just to get to where we're at today. I chair the policy committee,
Sure.
and the discussion came up do we stay with our current provider or go back to Neola? In our discussion, I believe you told me that we were significantly behind. Just for the record, can you tell me, how far behind we are?
Yes, it's listed, and maybe Dr. Bornay, if you get a chance, it'll be listed in there's two that have been going back and forth. We initially took the one where if you came back on the rejoin, and that would be this would be update 35, number 1. That was published in October of 22. So you're right about 2 years. So right now, School City would be behind 7 updates, 4 being the regular updates, 3 being special updates. For example, Title IX is being changed off and on. So I want you to know that we do send those out free of charge. Our clients get those free along with legal alerts. Diane, going back, I think, Diane, I'm sorry, is that right?
Yes, correct.
Going back to your question, there might be something controversial that's going on, so we'll craft a legal alerts for our clients only, and we'll send them out just as a heads up that this is where we think it's coming down the pike, so you might be wanting to think about that in advance of making your decision. And we do that for free. I know the others do not even come close to these type of services. And we send out special updates. Now, in a special update, you would not get the services of the associate. You do get for the formal, because unless you want to pay for me to come over all the time, and most people don't, no, I'm teasing, don't want me to, but, so you'd start at, does that help you though? So there's 7 right now, Jesse. Volume 35.1, 35.2, which came out in April of 23. 36.1, which came out in March of 24. And 36.2, which is what I'm currently beginning to work with clients on now. So that's folded into that offer, along with the 3 special updates. And so there's not confusion, in the catch-up agreement, when you get that, all the cost is at page 9, page 10, and page 11. Might help you to get to that if that's where that cost is. And I think anybody who knows me, I don't blow smoke at people. I am so busy right now. I would love to work with School City, but if it doesn't happen for whatever reason, I'm still going to stay busy. But I like to work with corporations, help you to get that off your back so that you can do the great things for kids you want to do. So that's where that one is. And I will tell you that I think Neola has really been, I don't know if generous is trying to put out a bridge and saying we're willing to work with you. So that's going to be less expensive. That's going to be less expensive. The one that you got recently is going to be more expensive, but that would be wiping everything out and just starting from scratch.
Excuse me, we do have policies, as Trustee Rodriguez mentioned, that we've incorporated locally. So if you're talking like that, then you're talking about wiping even those out as well.
It'll really be up to you.
Okay.
It'll really be up to you, whoever I work with. I'm sure Dr. Bornay will be reviewing these, and obviously your committee would be reviewing these. So I can't tell you that I might not say, I think as your associate that you should think about this before you do it. And that's all I'll say. But because you have one big benefit with having me as your associate. I've made every mistake that can be made. Okay, so I've been there. And I think, but if you say, nope, that's what we want to do, that's what we'll do. No issue at all.
And so the other way is then to grab each one of these individually and leave the local ones in there, correct?
If you were to do the comprehensive one, let's say, if you do the catch-up,
Yeah.
we're just gonna do the 7 that are missing. Right? Now here's the thing that's kind of a bargain. You still get, and I haven't seen them do this very often, you'll still will get 24 free hours of me as an associate to come and work with them, because I want to get this done too. I want to get this done. And I do tell the people I work with, if you don't keep it up, I'm going to come back and haunt you or something, because nobody likes to go through this. Once you get it up, let's keep it going, because you're going to fall in a trap possibly that we set you, that if you would have kept it up. If we go the full comprehensive one, then let's say we encounter one of those that you did local, and they just have to tell me, this is local, and we want it, okay, then we move on.
And that includes the ISBA policies, which we've adopted as well.
Yes. You know what? I'm gonna say yes tonight, and if that's wrong, I will get back to you, but I don't think it is.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Jesse, what was your question?
I also,
But Jesse, just to answer that, if any of those came under, you got sued over something, we would, you're kind of on your own with those, because I hope everybody could understand, we didn't craft those.
so trustee Smith, the question I asked was, we had passed some policies that were given to us by the ISBA. My question was, so they're not really going to cover our local ones? I asked if they would cover the ones that the ISBA gave us, and it sounds like they're not.
Well, we'll put them in.
Right,
They'll be in your body of policy. We just wouldn't warrant those.
right.
We only warrant the ones that we do. Which, I mean, I don't know how we could warrant that, because that would be like me saying, don't go down the side of the road and then you get hit and, well, you're supposed to cover that. I told you not to go down there. So we would just say, well, the ones we do are the ones that but we will put them on your site as your body of policy.
So I do have a question. This is for Attorney Harris. Attorney Harris, with the, if we do choose to move in this direction, how do we do that? Would we have to go through and do 2 readings of each one of these policies?
Yeah, I think there's a couple steps that we'll have to take before, well, not before, but there's a couple steps that have to be taken in order to implement this shift over to Neola. I guess the first thing I'll say is I was around when Neola was here before, and I do think that they provide a good service. So I think the having this meeting is good, and I think it's a good decision by the board. But in terms of what the next steps are, I think we need to get an inventory of the work that has been done by the policy committee to know what policies have been adopted locally. So we get some context as to how many of these policies are we talking about that are outside the scope of what would be standard. Whether it's under what ISBA recommended or Neola, there's some pretty standard policies that we're talking about. So I think we need to segregate some of the unique policies that were drafted by the board locally solely for this corporation, then a second list of the policies that were prepared by ISBA, prepared and recommended by ISBA, and then, and then we look at what we're going to be adopting from Neola. So I think the policy committee has a little bit of work to do in the process of this transition before getting it presented to the board, so that there's a recommendation that could be made in terms of, hey, this is what we're recommending we do in terms of a shift from ISBA to Neola, and here's how we go about adopting this new set of policies. So I think we need to meet with our associate here at our next policy meeting. It may take a couple of meetings, but it sounds like we've got 24 hours of him, so that's helpful. But I do think we have to sit down and do a little bit of work before we have a clear plan on how we're going to adopt it, if that answers your question.
It does. Thank you very much.
One
President
question, could I
Artiega,
add
just,
some? Oh, yeah, let's go.
just one second. President Artiega, do you have any questions? You may be on mute.
No,
Okay.
no, I'm fine.
Okay, thank you.
Everything sounds okay to me.
Okay, Mr. Dermody.
Yes, that the hours, those hours, of the service, but we cannot do that until you sign the agreement.
Understood.
So that would be part of that. How's that?
Trustee Smith has a question.
Yes.
I just have one question for Attorney Harris. Would you be working with us hand on hand with this policy?
Yes, I would. Yes, I would.
And would we, if we were to do this, and which we have to do this, would it, just my suggestion, because you've worked with me on policy committee before, and it was a smooth transition because you were there and the secretary was there, and to make sure that everything was documented. and everything was in line with the policies and the IC codes. Is that possible?
Yes, I'll make sure I'm personally involved in the transition process if that's the decision that the board makes. I think that my input will be helpful because you're right, I did work with the policy committee back when Neola was doing it. I'm familiar with what ISBA was doing. I don't think they did as much in terms of, the service they provided. But yes, I'll be involved.
Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Harris. Trustee Rodriguez?
This is for Mr. Harris as well. In regards to the prior transition, those policies that were approved by the board, are we also reviewing those policies, or are we only reviewing policies? Because it seems like the ISBA policies, regardless whether it's, are they going to be reviewed as well?
Yes. Yep. And I think when I was explaining kind of what we have to do next, I think there are two things that the policy committee needs to review, and I'll review it prior to the policy committee meeting, but it is a listing of all of the policies that were prepared at the request of the policy committee locally, just all unique just to East Chicago, right? And then there are another set of policies that were recommended by ISBA that we need to take a look at before we include them in the overall, update that's going to be adopted by the board. So yes, we'll review all those to make sure you want them included in, the next adoption, let's say, of the new set of policies.
Okay, but the prior set of policies that were approved by the board in these prior years are not going to be reviewed, or are they?
They are going to be reviewed, yes. Yep, they'll be reviewed because the board has to make a decision as to whether or not they want to keep those policies that were previously adopted, or if they don't want to keep them and go with just the model policies on those same issues that's being proposed by Neola. So there's kind of an evaluation that we need to do so that a recommendation can be made to the board as to how you want to handle it. So everything will be reviewed in the process, but as I see it, as we sit here now, it's primarily reviewing what has been done since the switch from Neola to ISBA.
And if Neola decides to review those policies and transfer them into Neola, then they're covered, correct? Since they're
Well,
reviewed by Neola?
They're not covered by Neola. So any policy that they didn't draft, they're not covering it. But in the process of doing this, I'm going to review them, the policy committee is going to review them, and there'll be recommendations made to the board. So I don't expect Neola to cover a policy that they had no involvement in recommending or drafting. So I don't think that's out of the ordinary. But just to kind of address your concern, those policies will be reviewed, and I will look at them from a legal point of view before I make a recommendation and before the policy committee itself makes a recommendation to the full board.
Okay. I just want to make a recommendation that if, after reviewing those, I'm pretty sure you sat on the board as well, in the policy committee, when those policies were implemented and had board action. So I wouldn't waste too much time on those, just focus on the ones that we haven't yet approved.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I think if they've already come before the board and the board has approved them, they likely will stay. But I still want you all to know, what you're adopting before you do it. So I hear you. I won't devote too much time to things that the board has already, considered and discussed and approved.
Thank you.
And one point on your discussion, you may find that, and Jewel, same way, you may find that one of our policies that you haven't looked at yet may be very, very connected or similar to the one that you had, and then that would be warranted. I don't know that, I'm just saying I wouldn't be surprised if they saw some of those.
So,
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think that's one of the things that we'll be looking at when we do that review, is exactly what you're mentioning. Hey, there may be two policies, one we have, one you're recommending, that are real similar, and, a decision has to be made on which one we want to go with. But yep, I hear what you're saying, and we do plan on reviewing that in the process.
There's another question. This is from Secretary Gibson King.
Oh, hi, Joel. I think I heard.
How are
you
you?
say- Hi, I think I heard you say that you worked with them on the policies before, and you worked with the Neola company?
Yes.
So you never worked with the Indiana School Board Association? Have you done that one too?
I have not had very much involvement with ISBA. I just think the process is a little different. The level of customer service that ISBA provides versus Neola is different. So just based on my experience, I had a lot more involvement with a representative or an associate with Neola than I have had with ISBA.
Okay, because I don't know anything about Indiana's ISB. Only thing I'm questioning is what I've heard so far with both of the companies is that I know we get them, to get the policies and we could tweak them, or we could just leave them as is. And it's my understanding that by us being already under the Indiana School Board Association, would their policies have more of the Indiana codes in them than what Neola would bring to the table?
So no, I think that's a good question,
Because
but
we
based
are- we are-
upon
we
what
are
I've
under
seen,
the-
I don't think that ISBA is more in tune with what Indiana code says versus Neola. I think Neola, this is what they do, it's all they do, and I think they do a good job of making sure that everything's current. ISBA does a good job too. I think the difference that I've noticed is just the level of service that you get from Neola versus ISBA. So just me personally, and based on my experience, I think that service level is a little bit better with Neola than it is with ISBA. That might be a staffing issue too, that ISBA does a lot of things, not just this, and Neola just does this. So I think that might be the difference in the two.
Oh, well, here come Mrs. Bigum. I want to
Appreciate
ask-
that, Joel.
I want to ask her a question.
Joel,
Yep.
I'm sorry.
She's here. If you don't mind, let me ask you a question. Now,
And Patty Jo,
yes,
on all of our policies, I'm sorry, go ahead.
so you go ahead.
At the bottom of our policies, the Indiana code and the date is provided. So our clients go, I love this because I go to it, it's right there. It's, we have the latest and greatest statutory changes.
Oh, I just want to ask our secretary here something, a question, because you have to type in some stuff with these policies too, don't you? And it makes, me talking with you, the ISB, policies is more, I don't want to say convenient, but it's more better for you to do whatever it is that you have to do with the policies instead of Neola? Because I'm just trying to get some kind of understanding as to,
Okay. ISBA, they had the policy meeting, and after the policy meeting, they submit what they need to send for the board. After second reading, all they do is send it to ISBA,
I don't know what ISBA really does.
Indiana School.
Yeah,
Board
I don't
Association.
follow their procedures.
Okay,
I'm
well,
from
I'm ju-
Neola.
no, she
Yeah,
said
but
speak.
I will talk about,
Sure.
Neola afterwards.
Yeah, just,
So we send it to the person there, and they implement it, and they put it all on board doc. Now, as far as when I was here with Neola,
Uh-huh.
we did the policy meeting, right, Mr. Gomez? And then the secretary had to put it in the board doc also. But it went, before it got to the secretary, it went to the superintendent, from the superintendent to the board, and they went over the policies for Neola.
That, you can do it any way you want.
Well, that's how the process was.
Sure. That's-
Okay,
that's-
so,
I don't, believe me, I have enough issues I don't tell people how to do it, but what I do make, I think Dr. Bernay, you and I talked about that what I suggested is you have yourself or someone else earmarked for this along with an administrator. That's how I did it. I had my administrative assistant with me. We went through it, and then I said, these are what I want done. It was processed, sent out, and I have 3% of my 28 clients get this done on time all the time. They just, sometimes the superintendent does it. And I said, I wouldn't do that because I'm not that good with technology.
and that's,
But if whoever you pick is good with technology, it's,
someone from Neola will come with the information, give it to the superintendent. He gives it to the policy people, And then they give it to the secretary, and she puts it in there.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't really have any dog in that fight.
But during that time, she wasn't the board secretary, there was someone else, and they were behind. They were like 8 years behind.
I know that.
I mean, so we've never been able to catch up.
I know
So
it.
because they were 8 years behind, and I'm not talking about the past administration, but she wasn't the secretary then. She wasn't the board secretary. And when I got on that board, the superintendent didn't follow through, so the board secretary kept trying to tell her you were outdated, you needed to update your policies. When I got on that board and got on the policy committee, they were 8, 9 years behind. And to this day, we have not been able to catch up.
That's what I said earlier, that you'll have two choices with the two proposals from us you have. You have one from when I believe East Chicago declined the service and got out of the agreement. That was in 2 years ago. So, I don't know what's really been happening since then. We are going to, it's less expensive, come in and say, this is what you've missed since you previously had the. The other one is we're starting from scratch. Jewel, you mind me calling you Jewel? I hate that I don't know you, or Mr. Harris, but.
No, Jules fine.
Jill's
Yep,
fine,
no
and
problem.
I'm Jim.
Yep.
What Jewel was saying is there has to be a process of evaluating the ones that you have, and maybe you say, we keep those. We say, that's fine, we're just not going to warrant them. Or you say, you already have a template for the one that, we were doing this before ISBA was doing it. How's that?
Yeah,
They
you
didn't
were.
have board docs. And I'm not going to knock anybody. We had board docs, and then they got board docs. So we're the blue star, I mean, in doing this. And then we'll just say, which one do you want? One we'll warrant, one that won't be warranted, but we'll still put it in as school cities, and we're not going to set it off or anything like that. It's just your policy.
Go ahead, and Ms. Simmons, I believe, has a statement.
Yeah, I have a quick question. So when I came in, Neola was in place, and we would receive this packet. Packet would have blank lines in for us to add in wording. Am I correct?
Yes, right.
And that's the way it is currently now.
Except it's all digital.
So we will have a digital, we won't receive a packet, we will receive a digital download
Thank
on
the
that.
Lord, right?
Okay, so my next question is, after we made the updates, we had to send it to someone else.
Yes, production.
So we do still have to send it out to production.
This is all done online digitally now. Those gigantic paper booklets that would just break your back carrying around are all gone.
Okay, so one hiccup that we had is that once we send it out to production, it would take weeks to get back to us.
I'd say now, since we've gone digitally, I had 5 clients today who sent them in last week, and it's updated to this week.
Okay, so we don't have to have the papers to look at it, we just look through each policy, if it's what the policy is there, we just push it through.
There will be no paper.
Okay, quick question. So I'm looking at your proposal here, and I'm looking at, I think this is Article 5, costs and payments of obligations for updated services,
Yeah, could you
Could you
please tell me
identify
what
the
page you're
page?
on? Because
page 32.
Wait, what page?
32.
yeah, go ahead, yes, ma'am, I
So
got
I'm
it.
looking at, there is a cost of $13.75 per update, regular update. What
Yes.
is that pertaining to?
Well, you'll have a upfront cost to come on to Neola.
Correct. I see that up in front
Okay,
of.
upfront
okay.
cost, and this will be for each update. So our clients today, my 28 clients, they pay, it's an annual fee of, I wrote it down, $37.45.
I don't see that in the packet
Yeah,
anywhere.
$35.45. It will be in there. I don't know exactly what page it's on, and what that is, that's 2 updates at $13.75 each, and then $7.95 for your annual tech fee.
Okay, I don't see that. I see a update of 1375 per regular update, and then I see a 22,750 per year. And that is also on page 32. Yes. And the only reason I'm asking about the money, because I'm the CFO.
I understand.
Okay.
No, those are all good questions. I'm gonna have to open my computer up and all that, but you should have all that. I'm telling you right now that that's what it is. I know that it is that, so, here's why. Because in your other one, see, I'm working off two of you. 795. I know 795 is in the agreement. I just didn't process all these. Here it is.
What page?
That would be page 11 of the other agreement, though. You have two potential agreements, but there you go. This invoice will be approximately a fourth of the annual 795 fee.
On page 11?
Yeah, but you don't,
Yeah, I don't have that.
Yeah.
you have, this is
So-
a different, this is the other,
So if you go to page
but it's the
11,
same for both, it's the same for both of them.
so this annual service fee of the 795.
Yes.
Okay, so that's the only thing that we would pay annually.
No, you'd also pay the two 1375s. So it's an annual fee of $35.45. We'll check that. Once you come with the upfront cost, it's an annual fee of $35.45 for everything.
Okay, I would like to see that policy because I'm looking at three different dollar amounts within this agreement that you gave us. One is a total of $28,000, and I'm understanding that's probably the one where you wipe out and come and do the whole thing.
Of everything.
Okay, so then I'm looking at 17,120, 17,120 is about, is a 17,120 is just bylaws and the policies. Am I correct?
This is the catch-up agreement with the same fact, so that would be, if you go policy, 6055, if you go policy and administrative guideline, 9,500, and then you have your 7,900 fee with that. That's in the other one you don't have right now.
Okay, so this is the catch-up of the
That's the
nine.
catch-up agreement.
Of the 9,000 of the catch-up agreement.
yes.
So we don't have this one here
You
in
do
this
have,
one. Yeah, Dr. Bonet might
Yeah,
have a copy
he
of
does have
that one. It's just, okay, so that amount plus what also that we're adding on?
you'll have,
We'll
this will
do-
be the 795, no, everything here on this one is all included.
Okay, everything there is all included,
It's all
so that
included.
would be that's the catch-up agreement, but if we decide to, like, we
Go
don't
to
want to
full
catch
Monty
up,
to
we just
start.
go with, that's the $28,000.
That's right.
Okay,
And then
how long is that $28,000? Or is it a 2-year?
that's just initial, you never pay it again.
We'll never pay the
never pay it again.
28,000. So we'll only go and pay the updates each
right.
time you come
You come
through.
in a one-time fee, and after that, you pay for the two updates, which is 2,800 plus the 7, it's 35.45 a year after your, forever.
35, 45 a year, that's the total.
After your initial comeback cost. Right?
Okay,
Does that help?
Yep.
Yeah, you come back, you pay that initial cost, and the rest of the time it's 35.45.
okay,
And that's for everything,
and that's for everything. That's
everything each year.
that's
You pay that
okay.
annually.
I pay that annually, but before we would pay our annual, and then we would pay the additional.
Starter.
No,
There's
no.
no additional. Once you pay, like if you decided to come in to do the whole thing over again, at the 28, you get 24 hour, should I be?
No,
there?
no, I understand what you're saying, but I'm, just one thing here. Right here, it says update services, $35.75.
Twice a year, so times
Twice.
2.
Okay, that's twice a year, and then I pay the $35.45
No,
annually?
That is part of this. You take that times 2, 795, that's that number. So everything you get two updates, you get all the digital services, everything for $35.45 a year.
Okay,
after your initial cost.
okay, okay. Understand.
Does that help?
Yes.
Okay.
If you'll, back to the microphone, just explain the updates.
What will happen in the updates, if I haven't seen your policy. Right now, I don't know if it's strictly ISBA or if it's a mixture of your old Neola and ISBA. Is that what it is?
Mixture.
Okay. So what would happen, what's happening right now on 36.2, which by the way, that is going to be included with no charge if you do the catch-up agreement this time. And the other one too. We'll take any existing policy that's affected by new laws, and then we send them out and say, these 10 have to be changed based on the laws. And I hate to use your first names. Is that okay or not? I mean no disrespect, but so Patty Jo, what you were asking about, they are the statute's right at the bottom. So we say, policy 1512, that needs to be changed because this statute's been changed right on the bottom. So we will send that to you, and that will be either stricken with a red line that your former language needs to go, or it'll be blue highlighted that this is what you need to take and change. And then that will put you in compliance with any of the new statutes.
At no charge.
No, that's all part of the 3545.
And that's, okay.
That's all part of it.
And that's twice a year.
No, once a year. You pay, you're gonna,
The total annual fee is once a year, the 35.
45.
yeah.
It's right.
And
I
then-
can't tell you, there might not be change on it, but
But
it's
that'll be
35.
twice a year.
So, once legislature's over, how soon after that do we get?
We struggle with that a little bit because the feds, we have to get that out. So our clients, they understand. So what will happen, we'll get the spring update out, but if there's some hot topics, then we follow up with a special update. You get that for free. So that is free. There's no charge. That's still part of the 30, but I wouldn't work with your team on that. You would have to do that on your own.
Okay.
Now, I'd come over if you want to pay me. That's part of the deal, but typically I don't. But I will tell you now, if I get a call from whoever you designate, I go, I'm going to be recorded. They'll get mad. Neola will get mad. I'd say this is where you should look.
Okay.
I want to help my clients.
I'm just curious, I'm not sure there's even need for this, but do you archive any of this?
I'm sorry.
Do you archive any of the older policies?
Yes, we can do that. We have a whole archive system with our digital board doc system.
Okay.
We retire them.
Okay.
So if you see the website, it'll say retire.
Okay.
You'll have active, draft, retired. You'll have active, draft, which are not active yet. Those are the ones you're deducing. And then retired. So say it's a policy that you have to change, but you kind of say, we kind of like that policy. You can take it out and then just put it, it's in a digital book. And it's in retired, so you can go back to that anytime and say, maybe we want to pick this apart a little bit. If that answers your question, Jesse.
It does, thank you.
Sure.
Attorney Harris or President Artiga, any other questions?
None for me.
I have one question, Jesse.
Oh, I'm good.
Trustee Rodriguez?
Just so that I'm clear, if we pay the full amount, which is the 28,000,
Now
and
that's for
the whole shebang, yes.
Okay.
And if we go back to when you ended, and we start from there, correct?
When I ended.
When Neola ended in October 22,
Okay.
and you said there's 7 segments that are going to be reviewed.
Yes.
Once those segments are reviewed, you're reviewing the policies regardless of whether it's been updated or not, correct?
I'm only going to do the ones that are recommended for change of those 7. policies.
Okay, so if they don't need change, you don't have to, are
No,
you,
I don't even look at them. I will not look at them. We're only gonna do those, because that's what you're paying for the service for.
okay.
See what I'm saying? Now, they did, I think, make a nice gesture because they're gonna give you gratis 24 hours or 12 extra hours of free to do that. You know, and I think, Dr. Bornay, if maybe they could get both proposals in front, you can look at those and see those, but the bottom line remains this. If you do the seven update, that's gonna be less expensive, but it will still be 35, 45 the rest of the year. If you do the whole thing, that'll be more expensive, but it'll still be 35, 45 the whole year once that upfront cost is done.
Simmons, you had a question?
Just one more question, and I'm probably pretty loud. So if we go and do just the 7 updates, what if some of those policies are not in the 7 update?
What if some of the,
Our policies, so we got our whole policies, and I think most of them was, last time the update was 2009. So say I got 5 policies that's not in your updated section, okay, so that's what, okay.
I mean, I can't,
They won't be updated,
no.
okay. And that's if we do go with the 7
Yes,
sections that have not been updated since October of 22.
I'm gonna, I'll say it like this, I'm not much good at anything, no, I'm teasing, but we were always up to date. So if this had been a case where I had been superintendent, then you would pretty much feel very confident that the ones that were there were good.
Okay,
From what you've told me, you may not have that confidence right now. I'm not knocking anybody, am I? I'm just saying you may not have the confidence that those are what you want necessarily. So the full service, we will go from scratch. We'll start at the first, and then when you come out of it, then it is what it is. If you go with the shorter contemporary 7, those will be right. Those will be right. But I couldn't speak to the others.
okay, that's the part that
Does that answer your question?
That answered my question, yes. So in the long run, we still would have to, the ones that was not updated from 2009, we're gonna have to still go back and.
That would be the choice of the board.
Eventually,
That would be the choice of the board.
okay.
Trustee Rodriguez, any further questions?
No, thank you.
Trustee Gibson King?
No, thanks.
Trustee Smith? No. Dr. Bornay, do you want to conclude this conversation?
Yes. We will make sure that our board has the other agreement, and we will design a simpler presentation that where you can compare and contrast both side by side in a one-pager, and then I'll plan on making a recommendation for next October board meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Dermody.
Well, I've had a pleasure meeting all of you. Plus, I have some goodies for you.
Okay.
So would that be right? I should just sit tight until I.
Yeah, Dr. Bornay will get back to you. Okay? Thank you.
Pleasure talking with you and meeting with you.
Thank you very much.
Chairman,
Okay.
can we have
We'll
2
take
minutes?
a 5-minute break?
Yes,
Yeah, we'll just take a 5-minute recess, please.
thank you.
resume the meeting. At this point in time, I'll turn it back over to Dr. Bornay.
Good evening again. On next Wednesday's board meeting, we will have, a portion of it will be our public budget hearing. So this second half of this work session is devoted to review at the high level from our chief financial officer, the budget book.
Ready?
Ms. Simmons,
Yes.
you go ahead.
Okay, so on the first page, this is the notice to the taxpayer. This will be in the presentation come next week. And this is the notice that we have to approve and send out for us to file for the budget for the year. So right now, we're looking at a budget of $48 million.
Where we at on page,
Third page in.
be on, what page you on, page 3?
Yep, it'll say number 1.
Okay, let's see. Page 3.
It says notice to taxpayers, yes.
What did it say now? Notice to taxpayers, you said?
Yes,
Page 1. So it's on page 1, not 3.
yeah, it says page 1, but 3 pages in, yep. Yeah. So our budget hearing date is for September the 25th, and that's the one where we present it to the public. And once we present it to the public, then our next approval date is October 22nd, which is our next board meeting. In between November the 25th and October the 22nd, the public can have questions, and they can be submitted into the finance office. So our budget this year is running in at 48 million, I'm sorry. We always go high on a budget.
Oh, okay, where are you seeing this 48 at? Or what page, can you go by pages with us, please? Okay, I see it now. So we still on page 1, right?
Yes, I'm still on page 1.
Okay.
So the debt service budget estimate is 2.6 million. The education estimate is 29 million. The operation estimate is 16 million. All these totals is based up on the last couple years where we always go higher than what the actual amount is. So my education actually comes in at 28 million, but I'm going higher, requesting a higher amount just in case the state decide to cut the budget. It won't cut it, so it would hurt us. And I would have to go out for more appropriations. So the estimate levy on the debt services, which we get from the taxpayers' money, is 3 million. 13 million for the operations, which we also get from the tax million. So that's 16 million for the levy. Again, this is high due to the fact that they always come, making sure that we always balance out, that I do not have to go back out for appropriations. If the state comes in and says they're gonna cut that 48 million down to 45 million, I'm fine, because my budget always comes in at 38, probably 38 million within a year's time. Current levy that I received this year, and that's between December and July payment, was 13 million, and that's split up between debt service and also operations. I also gave, there's a copy there, the loose copies. That is a 3-year trend of where our budget came in. You have 24, 23, and 22.
So this, where are they set now?
Those are loose copies
Yeah.
that you have. That top one should be 24.
You mean the year 24, right?
Yes, the year 2024. I think it's like right there where your highlighter, yep,
Yeah.
yep. That was our budget that was approved for last year. We have not took any cuts from, the state hasn't readjusted our budget in, not since I've been here. So whatever we submit out as that Form 3, that is where our budget has been landing.
The year is 23, 22, and 21, correct?
Yeah,
Because we're working on 24.
Working on 25.
we working on 25.
Working on 25?
Yeah,
So I don't see
25.
24 then.
Yeah, here it
You don't see your 24?
Looking up there. Okay, gotcha. Okay.
24, 23, and 22.
So if I move on to the next session, behind taxpayers, notice to taxpayers, this is where we come up with the number of the 48 million. This is budget form 1. This is a breakdown of everything basically we have paid out within the year. On this is actually a 4% increase on this dollar amount due to the fact of raises coming in. So I went up 4% because I have not, we normally come in at a 3% raise per year. We always add that into our budget to make sure we can account for a raise and make sure that it is approved by the state. So this is detailed. If you go to the first session, that's the debt session. Those are the outstanding debts that we have at this time. $2019 is going to drop off this year.
Where you at now, 2019?
Yeah, it's on that, right above the green line.
Okay.
The disaster loan comes out of our monthly payment from the state up under the education. So to keep our levy tax number steady where it's at, we are considering going out for at least a $6 million, $8 million bond this year. And that's just so that our levy tax number does not drop and that the taxpayers won't feel any increase if we have to do an emergency bond. So if we go out for it before we need the emergency, we keep our taxpayer number rate in line. Any questions? So the next couple pages, you see in the left-hand corner, it says education. Thus, everything that comes out of our education fund, which is mostly all salaries and some supplies. Okay, we're gonna, if you go to page 9, this is where the operation section start. Operation is basically all the salaries that comes out for maintenance, some administrators, anyone that falls up under non-certified comes out of the operation. So anybody that does not have that teacher's degree.
She said.
Again, taking effect that we do also increase operation to 4% also. Each line is pretty much detailed to what it's paid out to.
Simmons, if I can, the same thing applies here. The 4% is just to kind of cushion against the 3%.
Yes,
Okay.
we always go a little bit above, just in case the state decide that they want to remove something from our budget, a percentage. At least we have that cushion in there that it won't affect anything that we're doing.
Thank you.
Particularly one reason why when we give out the raises, it doesn't take a big dip into anything because we already put it in here. Our bus drivers are also out of the operations.
What about athletics?
Athletics, referring to athletic ECAs comes out of the education fund.
Where are they at, located?
Athletic ECAs,
Yeah, down here,
that's, athletic ECAs is mostly your teachers.
What page?
page 9, where it says athletic coach.
Those are basically ECAs, where we pay the coaches out of. Most of them are teachers. If they are from outside of the district and do not have certified, they will come out of operation fund. Any more questions? Or you, page, want to skip over to page 16?
Oh, well, let me ask you, what is the community service operation? Is that out in the community or what?
The outreach person,
Outreach person
anything that we do for the
for the
community.
community? So do we have somebody do we have outreach person?
Yeah, that is, Stacy, I don't know why I wanted to call her Stacy. Dr. McJunkins must be talking about me. That is Sylvia.
Okay, Sylvia,
And then she also have her cell people that's in there also. And then if it's community supplies, that is anything that I purchase for Sylvia to hand out to the community, or if she's having a community event. Any more questions, or you want to move on to page 16?
Yeah, I do have a question. If you can, or I'm not sure if you would have this information readily available, but so our budget breaks down to, let's see, almost twice as much is put into education as operations. Is that typical, that 2/3 would be in education, or
Break,
if you look at the totals of the budget
the-
estimate, was 30,000 or 30 million, and then the operations is, let's say, 15 million.
oh, yes.
So it's almost like 2/3 to 1/3.
So your education is our student count, and the operation is the tax levy money.
Is that typical?
Yes.
to see That kind of ratio,
Yes.
2 to 1? Okay.
Yep. Actually, I
Okay,
think
no other
it's,
questions. We can move on.
it's on the other, if you look at the other ones also, it's about the same. on here.
Oh, you know, sorry, I didn't check. I'll look.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Uh-huh.
Then on page 16,
Page 16 that's when we just do some graphs. And this will go into a little bit more detail on the 25th. That's basically where our levy has been. Okay. Basically where our levy has been running for the last couple of years. So you see, at 18, they stopped when they were breaking it down by transportation, capital projects and all. And they just added one lump sum now into operations, telling us basically you figure out how to use it. So in 2013, I believe either BP or Cliffs did something to push that levy up. Not 13, I'm sorry, 23. I'm not for sure if they added. Dr. Bernay brought something up to my attention about a circuit breaker. So when I did ask someone about the circuit breaker, there were some legal things that were going on with our larger industries around us, which the county basically is like, okay, we're gonna push the circuit breaker up to equal it out, and it came right back down for this year. And there is one thing that Dr. Benet wanted me to do a little bit of research on to see how much that we can get back. So technically, my taxes went down like $200,000 this year, and that was probably because of that circuit breaker. This year, we should coming right back down. I think over the years, I think it's been a big fear of the circuit breaker, but as you can see on here, it ran pretty good. I can say that it did not affect us to the amount that it affected the smaller school districts like Griffin and Lake Ridge and all that. They really took some serious hits. So again, when I go to talk about the levy, the tax levy, it is all that, there's a reason why we go out for debt, and Joel is also pretty knowledge of this, is that we want to keep that tax rate right where it's at, so we do not do a big burden on the taxpayers. Page 18. This is a list of capital projects, a wish list. Could change if we forecast that particular Central, we paying for half of Central's HVAC system now. We know we need to totally update that system. So we got it on the wish list for a $1 amount, but it might take up more, depends on what the equipment is. So basically, our capital projects, our wish list that we will incorporate all of them that we need to do. We only can do certain ones, and this wish list is out to 2029.
Can this wish list be part of the GO bond?
Yes, most definitely.
do we have anything left out of the ESSER to fix something on here?
No. ESSER's is pretty much, we done picked that too. We can't pick that no more. Yeah, we're doing excellent with ESSER's. Yeah, if anything, we might be to overspend something that I gotta take out of operations, but we have used that total dollar amount to the max. One thing is this on here is new buses, so, in coming weeks, we will have the grant to sign off on for the new buses. We got a grant for the 2 electric buses, which is gonna pay over 75% of it, which is a very good thing because they're $495,000 apiece.
That's for the bathrooms.
And those the the electric buses?
2 electric buses, the rest propane. Yeah.
Glad to see the bathroom door. I'm glad to see the bathroom remodeling.
Yeah, bathroom remodeling's got to be done.
Yes.
It's gonna be a total demolish and put in. I start Lincoln's fall break. Lincoln's will be, downstairs bathroom will be totally demolished and brought back. High school is gonna be the biggest thing. We first started on the third floor because the principal said the third floor was the worst. But now I think we're just gonna do all of them this summer coming up, so we don't have any issues with the bathrooms, especially the Z wing. That's also in conjunction with the HVAC system we want to complete for, the high school.
The number 4, Central High School Auditorium.
Yeah, Central High School and the auditorium needs some little bit of love and care. It's the original auditorium. The seats are original. Some of them are broken. Some are missing. So we just want to give Central High School some love and care in that auditorium.
I had the same question. A few of their alumni have asked about that because there's it would seem that that maybe there's more attention it needs at the high school. They were talking about the sound system over there, the lighting system, the curtains,
Yep.
chairs, the carpeting. I mean, it almost seems like that needs a full upgrade.
Sound system, I have just completed out of Esser.
Oh, great.
Lighting, we are just completing out of our bond. The chairs and the flooring, alumni has reached out and asked me if they come up with money, would I match them? So. And that's for the auditorium. We also doing the sound system in the gym due to graduation was kind of muffled. And then we're doing the sound system at the football field and it's kind of muffled. And the soccer field.
Landscaping too?
Landscaping is another bear that I'm starting this year. It needs to be redone. And then we maintain it. That's basically where we at with landscaping. It needs to be overhauled, redone. I'm starting with Central. And then we have to maintain it after that. So that probably is gonna be some of the bond money because landscaping is not cheap. I think Central was like $150,000 just to even start it.
If you don't mind, I share Trustee Smith's interest in the auditorium. If you could provide the board a breakdown of what you just mentioned right now
Okay.
regarding lighting, chairs, sound system, carpeting, and the curtain.
Curtains is also what we took care of in
Great,
the
thank you.
auditorium.
It's great to hear. Okay, I think that's all I have for now. Anyone else?
Lighting, Jesse, you said lighting,
Chairs, sound system,
okay.
carpeting, and the curtain.
Carpeting and the chairs
And the
are,
chairs.
carpeting and the chairs right now is what the alumni said that they would try to do. If they come up with some money, would I match them on that carpeting and chairs? I told them might be a good idea just to go out and sell each chair.
Hey, there you go. Great idea. Yeah.
Leela?
Yes.
Yes, I had a question. And I might have missed it, but how much money do we have in our rainy day funds?
2.9 million. 2.9.
Okay, thank you.
2.9,
In the rainy day fund.
yes.
I remember a time we didn't have anything in the rain.
When I came in 2017, we had $100,000 in rainy day. 100,000, yeah, in rainy day when I came in.
At one point, we had Little bitty.
So getting back to landscaping, I don't see it on this list, by the way.
It isn't?
I see it somewhere. Let's see.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Is there,
All school landscaping upgrade.
is there any way we may be able to work on partnering with probably the city or
So the city
or
actually,
even corporations within our city?
right, so the city actually gave me their list of landscapers, to put their RFP out for them. Yeah. So I have the list from the city for the landscaping crews, that they use. So I have some of their vendors. It's one particular one that we always use, he helps us out when I needed trees down, and that's Mr. RK.
So on that note, I'd like to say again, I think I've said it more than once, the interest, at least that I have, in hiring local contractors for opportunities like this.
Yeah.
We could, and Attorney Harris, any issues with that?
No, not at all.
Thank you.
Same thing with custodian. Or they not?
No, there's not very many of them that are licensed or bonded.
Yeah, we have to have them licensed and bonded.
I'm not saying that I know of.
Yeah, the city list is licensed and bonded.
Am I right?
Yeah, the city list is licensed and bonded.
We could move on.
Okay. So next is the buses. So I have 2 buses that's gonna ride by the end of the year.
What page that, 20?
20, yes. We purchased 2 buses out of the ESSER funds, and they should be here by the end of the year. Unless another hiccup comes, but we purchased 2 buses. We also just purchased 1 mini bus that I was gonna replace next year through the McKinney-Vento grant. So we got a good head on that one. But the buses that's listed there to be replaced are the ones that's coming in that's gonna be replaced with the grant money, the grant funding.
Trustee Rodriguez and I have been at a number of conferences where there have been organizations that are looking at buying back old buses. Do we do anything with our old buses?
So most of our old buses is under grant, and if they're under the grant, I have to dispose of them. I have to do the drilling of the hole.
Or we can't sell them.
No, I can't resell them.
I can't buy no bus.
No, you can't buy no bus.
That was my question. I want this small bus.
Yeah, if I'm paying for them, we could keep them, but if they're up under the grant, we gotta drill that hole. We gotta send
So I'm a little confused in terms of when you say drill that hole.
in the motor.
Huh?
You have to drill a hole in the motor?
Yes, I have to totally scrap that bus.
And this is if it's a federal grant?
If it is under a grant, yes.
Tell them to a,
No. Nope, that's the stipulations of that
so they
grant.
have to go to the bus. Have it.
Scrapyard then.
Yeah, they gotta go.
That's why I mean, might be off the path.
Mm-hmm.
Going to Indianapolis, is that why we see all those school buses?
No, actually, that's a company that actually,
So what do they do with? that's
those
what-
are buses that they
I don't know
sell.
what the auction place is.
Oh, probably so. No, I don't think they don't wanna auction anything that the motor has been
Okay,
drilled a hole in.
I just saw a lot of.
And it's actually in the, contracts that we sign off on too, that it tells us what we have to do with the buses. Mm-hmm. I'll
Yeah, this
highlight,
is it's an environmental initiative, so the goal is to get those old buses off the street and improve, the emissions. That's what that's all about, so Leela's correct.
Thank you.
I noticed that most of our buses are over 10 years. What's
Yes.
the lifespan of our buses?
10 years. And that's the reason why we're doing a seven buy this year. So originally, before we got into the HVAC system, not the total grant, but most of the last bond that we took out, we were going to use most of that money on buying to get all the 10 years off. With the HVAC systems being as bad as they were, it was time that we put some of that money into the HVAC systems. So that's the reason why we're replacing 7 buses within 25.
That down here is the bus is less than 12 years. It says 10 or 12.
Bobby tried to get rid of them in 10. Yeah, our mechanic, because after the parts become very hard to find.
You say Bobby?
Yes, our mechanic, Bobby Gasich,
Oh,
our head mechanic.
Because it seems like we may be playing catch-up all the way from
We are.
2008 to
Yep.
2014, pretty
Yeah.
much.
No,
I'm looking at 21 buses,
Yeah.
including the 5 minis that are pretty much
5
past
minis.
10 years.
Yeah, 5 minis we took out of service. We only used those for McKinney Vento. We took those out of services. And then the 18s, the 8s, we are replacing. And then the 10s, we're gonna replace. And some of the 11s. Some of these buses are actually sitting in the back that need parts that we can no longer get parts for. If you're right by the transportation building, look with the side with all the cars, that back line of, we can no longer get parts for those. So instead of Bobby giving those out, he would go and get the ones that we actually run in the fleet to replace with.
Why don't we, why don't we remove those?
Because they're old, that he'll run the ones out the fleet that we actually use. He can't get parts for those, so those don't run. The ones that's in the fleet that is old, he'll get those off the streets and go that way, instead of us steady keeping them on the streets and the ones in the back.
Any other questions? We could move on.
Okay, so in that one packet, which you have the 3-year, you have all of the resolutions, including the transfer of the school funding from education to operations. All those resolutions will be signed, I do believe, in the October 22nd meeting. It's a separate packet, Joel.
These papers.
Maybe that one in where your water is at, yep.
It's in the book as well.
I'm sorry.
I do see the one in the book. I don't see the others.
Oh, it's in the book too? Okay, I didn't know you could put it in the book also.
How many? Just the one?
Resolutions? I don't know. Yes, let's see.
I see that one.
And we do the $5 million transfer, stay up under the 15% that we're allowed to transfer.
Oh, you're right, it's the same.
More questions?
So with the transfer, how then, going back to the first page, how does that then work?
That works, that transfer, since they eliminated the capital and the transportation fund, that transfer allows me to transfer that 5 million over into the operation. So our operation fund, first, our education fund runs at, an overage of $10 million. Okay, so our operation fund, unless there's a lot of repairs that I have to do, I hold at least $5 to $6 million in that fund. And that's just to hold it because of our buildings need a lot of repair, updating. to make sure we have surplus, basically, for any major thing that happens.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions?
Is there any other, what are the scheduling for the other meetings that may take place? Is this considered the public meeting?
No. Your public
Okay.
meeting is on the 25th,
Okay,
and then the next adoption would be on the 22nd.
second, okay,
Of what, of October?
22nd of October, yes.
25th.
We have to approve the budget by November the 15th.
We'll be here.
In October? Oh, it's September, not October?
September the 25th,
Oh, yeah.
and
for the
then
meeting.
October the 22nd. Adoption is October the 22nd. September the 25th is to the public.
I'm sorry, I did have a question outside of this. Let's see. If, in reviewing some of the agenda items, while Ms. Simmons is still here, there was donations made for educational purposes for sports teams. How does that work? Somebody makes a donation to,
So if someone makes a donation, and all donations are approved on the agenda, so those donations have to be approved. Once they are approved, they are put into the correct ECA that they go to.
then, I don't know if you would know this, but who would track that so that we know that,
My ECA clerk,
okay.
ECA clerk at the number one clerk that's at the buildings.
And typically, or is there typical expenditure, or is it tutoring? What is it that they can use that funding for?
Depends on what, where is it going? So if it's going into basketball, they can use it for anything related to basketball. If it's going into one of the clubs, like, the senior club, she can use it for everything related to the senior club.
But if it's designated for educational purposes,
If it's designated for educational purposes, she can only use it for that.
can't use it to buy uniforms.
No, you cannot.
Would education be focused on education, or would it be allowable to use that money for a camp, or, having a coach talk to the kids, or does it, what is that definition?
If it's educational purposes, so if it goes for a sports team, they could use it for a keynote speaker if that's what they want to do, because that's education for the kids. If it's pertaining to that sports team,
Right.
yes.
How can we track that? It seems that over the years, we've had these, and, as we try to, give rise to athletics and academics together, how can we track what
That
those
comes,
expenditures are?
that comes into my office every month,
Okay.
yes.
Can you share that with the board, please?
The ECAs?
Yeah,
I can
that'd
give
be
you-
helpful.
Yeah.
I think, we're beginning to get more and more donations, thankfully.
Yeah,
And,
yeah,
just wanna make
come to
sure
my office every
that- yeah.
month, all schools, ECA reports
Is that
to my office.
Sorry.
Uh-huh.
Is that a separate account?
Yes, that's a separate bank account.
Okay, so
That is
each,
not my,
each ECA would have its own
each
separate bank
school's.
account?
Yep, not each ECA, each school has their own
ECA account?
ECA accounts.
Yeah.
Yep.
Any other questions? Thanks, Mrs. Simmons, appreciate it.
Okay.
Dr. Bornay, is there anything else?
I have nothing else, Vice President Gomez.
Thank you. I think that will conclude our meeting unless there's anything else. Attorney Harris or President Artiga?
Nothing on my end. Thank you.
Thank you.
No, I'm good too.
Thanks. Trustee Rodriguez, anything?
No.
Leila, give me that pencil, please.
Trustee Smith?
Thank you.
Anything else, Trustee Smith? Ms. Smith, is there anything else? Anything else you want to address? Secretary? Okay. Nothing else from me either. That concludes our meeting for tonight. Thank you. Thanks for everyone watching.
What was Monday's